They told us AI was just a tool, a copilot to help us code faster. But tell that to the creators of Tailwind CSS who just had to fire nearly their entire engineering team because AI didn't just help them, they stole their entire business model. And if economic pain wasn't enough, scientists in China just gave robots the ability to physically feel pain. We are way past the hype cycle, my friends. Reality just hit hard. What is going on? This week, the first full week of 2026, has been absolute chaos. We have laptops hitting the market that are powerful enough to run government level secret AI models without even connecting to the Wi Fi. We have a security flaw in the world's most popular web framework that's so bad hackers can hijack your server by just sending a polite request. And if you're holding onto an Intel MacBook, Apple just officially declared your laptop a vintage relic of the past. We are seeing a massive divide open up. On one side, hardware is getting insanely good. On the other side, the software industry and jobs that go with it is crumbling under the weight of automation. This is Byte Tech. Let's get into it. Let's start with the shiny stuff because CES 2026 in Las Vegas was complete silicon war zone for this week. For the last 2 years, we have heard the term AI PC thrown by marketing teams. Usually, it just meant this laptop has a dedicated button for Copilot and it was a gimmick. But this week, the gimmick became a spec sheet. The new metric you need to care about isn't gigahertz or RAM anymore, it's TOPS, trillions of operations per second. This measures how fast the neural processing unit, the NPU, can think. Up until last month, a good AI laptop hit about 40 to 50 tops. It can blur your background on Zoom or run a tiny chatbot, but HP just walked into the room and flipped the table. They announced the Omnibook Ultra 14. This thing has a rocking Snapdragon X2 Elite processor and it hits 85 tops. 85 tops is not just better, it's a threshold. At 85 tops, you can run a 7 billion parameter language model like Llama 3 or Mistral completely offline on your battery, generating text faster than you read it. Imagine you're a developer working on sensitive medical data, or maybe you're building a finance app where you legally cannot send data to the cloud. You can now have a GPT-4 level intelligence living inside your backpack, running locally with zero latency and zero privacy risk. That is a game changer. Not to be outdone, Samsung and Intel are fighting back with the Galaxy Book 6 series. They are now using the new Intel Core Ultra Series 3, codenamed Panther Lake. Now on raw numbers, it's hitting about 50 tops. So it's not beating the Snapdragon on pure AI muscle, but it has the secret weapon. It's x86. If you're a coder, you know the pain of ARM compatibility, Docker container scaling, weird virtualization bugs. Samsung is betting that developers still want the safety of Intel chips, but they have paired it with screens that hit 1000 nits of brightness and anti-reflective glass that makes coding outdoors actually possible. But while the PC world is sprinting into the future, Apple is aggressively burying the past. This week, they updated their vintage and obsolete list, and it hurts. If you own an iPhone 11 Pro or the last Intel based MacBook Air from 2020, you are now officially owning vintage tech, that is old tech. This isn't just a label, it means guaranteed repairs are gone. If a screen breaks, Apple only fixes it if they happen to have parts lying around. This signals the final nail in the coffin for the Intel Mac era. If you are a developer still testing your apps on Intel Macs, the hardware support is vanishing. The industry has moved to Apple Silicon and NPU based architectures. Okay, put down the shiny laptops for a second. We need to talk about a code red situation that hit web developers this week. If you use Next.js or React, listen up. Security researchers dropped a bomb called React to Shell. People are calling this Log4j of the front end. Here is what happened. Modern web development has moved to something called server components. It's a cool tech that lets your React components run on the server. But to get that data to your browser, it uses a protocol called Flight. It turns out there was a massive logical flaw in how that protocol handles data. A hacker can send a specifically crafted malicious HTTP request to your Next.js server. The server tries to deserialize it or unpack that request, but because it wasn't checking the payload properly, it executes the hacker's code. The scariest part, this happens pre-authentication. That means the hacker doesn't need a username, they don't need a password, they just need your URL. They knock on the door and your server lets them in and hands them the keys. This affects almost every version of Next.js and React 19. Even if you just ran create Next app this morning and deployed it, you are vulnerable. You need to patch to the latest versions like React 19.2.3 immediately. This is not a drill. This is the kind of a bug that ransomware gangs love. Speaking of ransomware and fragile systems, let's look at the corporate disaster of the week. Jaguar Land Rover just announced that the sales plunged 43% in the last quarter. Why? Not because people stopped buying Range Rovers, but because they literally couldn't make them. A massive cyber attack attributed to the groups like scattered spiders completely crippled their production lines. They had to stop the factories, they couldn't ship parts, they couldn't invoice dealers. It's estimated this attack cost them over $1 billion. But here's the twist for the techies watching. Jaguar Land Rover's IT infrastructure is heavily managed by Tata Consultancy Services. While TCS says that their own systems weren't breached, this is a massive wake-up call for the managed service provider model. TCS is now scrambling to launch cyber resilience squads for all of their top clients, but the damage is done. It's proved that in 2026 you are only as strong as your weakest server. And now, how do we power all these servers and AI models? Well, Meta, Mark Zuckerberg's empire, has decided that solar panels aren't cutting it. Zuck just signed deals for 6 gigawatts of nuclear power. He's partnering with startups like Oklo and TerraPower to build small nuclear reactors specifically to feed Meta's AI data center. Think about that. We have social media companies becoming nuclear powers. They are realizing that compute is the new oil and electricity is just the bottleneck. The AI models that they want to build in 2027 and 2028 require so much juice that they have to split atoms to keep the chatbots running. But while Meta is buying nukes and HP is building super laptops, something much darker is happening on the ground floor. The economic promise of AI is starting to show its teeth and it's eating us. The biggest story this week wasn't a product launch, it was a firing. Tailwind CSS. You know it, you use it. It's the utility first CSS framework that took over the world. The company behind it, Tailwind Labs, is a hero of open source world. They make money by selling Tailwind UI, which are pre-made components. This week, the founder, Adam Wathan, announced he had to lay off 75% of his engineering team. Why? Was the product bad? No. Was the economy crashing? No. It was AI. Adam explained that the revenue dropped 80%. And the reason is fascinating and terrifying. The business model relied on people visiting the documentation. You go to the site to look up how to make a Flex container. You see a banner for Tailwind UI, and maybe you buy it. But now you don't go to the documentation. You just ask Cursor or Copilot or ChatGPT, give me a Tailwind navbar, and the AI gives you instantly. The AI learned from Tailwind's documentation and now it has replaced the need to ever visit Tailwind's website. The funnel is dead. AI cut out the middleman. But the middleman was the creator of the tool. This is the tailwind effect. If your business relies on people searching for information that you created, you are in trouble. AI answers the question without sending you the traffic. We are cannibalizing the very people who build the tools we learn. And it's not just developers. Morgan Stanley dropped a bombshell report this week. They are forecasting that 2 lakh bank jobs in Europe will vanish by 2030 because of AI. We aren't talking about bank tellers. We are talking about risk analysts, compliance officers, back office staff, the jobs your parents told you to get because banks never go bust. The AI doesn't need to sleep, it doesn't need health insurance, and it can analyze a loan application in 3 milliseconds. And for those lucky enough to keep their jobs, their freedom is disappearing. Look at Wipro. They just issued a new mandate. Employees must be physically present in the office for 6 hours a day. Not come in and say hi. You have to clock in, stay 6 hours, and clock out. If you leave 10 minutes early, you lose half a day's leave. We have the most advanced remote work technology in history. Apple Vision Pros, Zoom, Slack, and yet companies are reverting to factory-style time clocks. They are terrified of losing control. However, there is a silver lining. The Naukri Jobs Peak Index showed a 13% jump in hiring in India this month. But the jobs are different. They don't want generic testers anymore. They want AI engineers, data scientists, and cybersecurity experts. The bar has been raised. You can't just be in tech anymore. You have to be in specialized tech. If the job market news didn't scare you, let's talk about the moment science fiction became real this week. We have talked about generative AI that creates text or images. Now, welcome to the era of physical AI. Two things happened this week that when you put them together are mind-blowing. First, Google DeepMind announced a partnership with Boston Dynamics. They are putting the Gemini brain inside the Atlas body. Atlas is that humanoid robot that can run Parker, but until now it was dumb. It did what it was programmed to do. By putting Gemini inside it, the robot gains reasoning. You could tell it, hey, that shelf is messy, clean it up, and it understands what messy means. Looks at the shelf, plans the actions, and does it. But a robot that can think is clumsy if it can't feel. That's where the second news comes in. Researchers in China just unveiled neomorphic e-skin. This isn't just a touch sensor, this skin mimics the human nervous system. It converts pressure into electrical pulses that looks like our nerve signals. Now here's the crucial point. It allows the robot to feel pain. Why pain? Because pain is a reflex. If you touch a hot stove, you pull your hand away even before your brain even processes it. The e-skin allows the robots to have the same reflex loop. If the robot bumps into a sharp object or a human, it instinctively pulls back without waiting for the central computer to process the data. Let's do the math. Google is giving the robot a brain, Boston Dynamics is giving a body, and Chinese researchers are giving it nerves. We are witnessing the birth of a new species of machine, one that can think, walk, and feel. This is the state of the world in the second week of January 2026. We have laptops that are becoming supercomputers to preserve our privacy. We have nuclear plants being spun up to feed the hunger of data centers. We have robots gaining the sense of touch. But we also have the tailwind effect. We have the collapse of traditional business models because AI is too efficient for its own good. We have a security landscape so fragile that one bad line of code in a library can shut down a car manufacturer. It is the most exciting time to be in technology, but it is also the most volatile. If you want to survive the tailwind effect and stay ahead of the robot, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next update. I'll catch you in the next one.